Imagine stepping into a marsh where the fog breathes. You hear a slow inhale behind you, but when you turn around, nothing's there. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll know exactly why people think this marsh is alive. So what is this place? Locals call it the Waking Marsh, a quiet swamp wrapped in pale mist that never lifts. No houses, no roads, just water, reeds, and a strange feeling that something is watching from beneath. Legend says the marsh was once a vibrant forest. A storm flooded it for days. Trees drowned, animals vanished. When the waters stayed, people whispered that the land refused to die and instead decided to wake up. Here's the strange part. The mist moves in patterns. Not like wind, more like curiosity. Travelers report seeing wisps curl toward their footsteps, circling them, then retreating as if the swamp were sniffing the air. At night, the marsh makes sounds. Gurgling, whispering, slow, bubbling breaths. People say the mud exhales through hidden holes. Others swear the sound comes from deep underground like a giant chest rising and falling. According to one old tale, a wandering healer tried to drain the swamp to grow crops. Every channel he dug filled back in overnight. The mist thickened around him, and his tools sank slowly into the soft ground. The healer finally gave up and spoke aloud, "If you want to live, keep your water." The next morning, the channels stayed still, as if the marsh had accepted the deal. Since then, no one dares to change it. But why do people feel the marsh watching them? Some legends say the old forest spirits never left. They just sank into the mud, roots turning into veins, water becoming blood, mist carrying the last breath of the trees. Others say it's a single vast creature, a sleeping giant made of water, roots, and silt. No clear body, no clear face. Just one mind spread across the entire wetland, using mist as its wandering thoughts. So is there any proof? One recurring story: people drop objects and the marsh returns them. A hat lost in deep mud floats back hours later. A walking stick stuck in the ground reappears neatly on the path. A fisherman once left a lantern on a log. A sudden gust pushed it toward the deep channel. He turned away in fear of fire. When he looked back, the lantern rested safely on dry ground, surrounded by thicker mist. Some people think the marsh protects clumsy visitors, as long as they respect it. But there's another side to the legend. Those who mock the stories say the fog plays tricks, and paths vanish right under their feet. A traveling merchant once laughed at the tales and marched in without caution. Hours later, he said the same crooked tree kept appearing ahead, no matter which turn he took, as if the marsh were turning him in circles. Finally frightened, he apologized aloud to the living swamp and promised to leave. Moments later, the mist thinned, and a straight, clear path of bright green reeds opened, leading him back to solid ground. But what if the marsh isn't magical at all? Some suggest natural causes: trapped gases bubbling up, temperature shifts making mist roll like a wave, echoing sounds bouncing off water and reeds, confusing the ears. Even then, the feeling remains. Why do we sense a presence in places like this? Our brains love patterns. When mist curls toward us, we see intent. When mud gurgles, we hear breathing. The marsh becomes a someone. Storytellers turn that someone into a character. In some villages, the marsh is a guardian, gently steering lost children away from deep pools. In others, it's a jealous spirit that keeps what falls into its waters. One particularly eerie tale says the marsh remembers every footstep. The more you walk there, the more it knows you. Regular visitors feel less fear and more comfort, as if the ground recognizes their weight. Travelers claim that when they return years later, the path they always take is still there, even if storms reshape the land. They say the marsh holds their route like a memory, quietly guiding them back. So, is the marsh kind or cruel? Most legends agree on one rule: mirror its behavior. If you move carefully, speak softly, and leave no harm, the living swamp stays calm. Treat it like dead land, and it wakes up angry. Think about what this says about us. We give nature a face, a voice, a mood. It helps us remember respect. A living marsh is harder to destroy than just mud. The legend is a shield protecting fragile wetlands. And maybe that's the real power here. Whether or not the marsh breathes, the story makes people step lighter, listen closer, and avoid careless damage. The myth becomes a quiet agreement between humans and water. If you ever stood in thick fog, you know the feeling. Shapes blur, distance vanishes, every sound grows. Your mind fills the gaps with possibilities. A living marsh is born right there, inside that uncertainty. In many cultures, marshes sit on the border between worlds. Land and water, life and decay, seen and unseen. Calling one alive is a way to admit we don't fully understand what hides beneath the surface. So, is the Waking Marsh a monster, a guardian, or just mud and mist? The answer depends on who walks in and how they behave. The legend lives only as long as people keep telling and respecting the story. Remember the merchant who got lost? Imagine if he had brought friends who laughed louder, stomped harder. Would the paths have stayed closed longer? Every version of the tale adds or removes mercy from the marsh. Before we close the loop, ask yourself, if you entered a place rumored to be alive, would you test it or greet it? Legends like this reveal more about our choices than about mud, roots, and fog. Stay until the very end, because here's the twist. Whether or not the marsh is truly alive, you are. And your footsteps, your respect, your stories decide which myths survive and which landscapes remain untouched. So next time you see fog over quiet water, remember the Waking Marsh. Maybe it's just weather, maybe it's more. Either way, walk as if the ground is listening, because in legend and in nature, it always is.